Hello everybody, James here, and it's Ask Dutch Anything episode 50-something. I couldn't find the number. Pro Wrestling Tees, we'll get through the plugs very, very quickly. Pro Wrestling Tees, story time with Dutch Mantell on Facebook, a dancing hat that you can get signed if you want to. Email dirtydutchmantell with 2Ls@gmail.com. He's got 2 books as well, The World According to Dutch and Tales from a Dirt Road as well. If you want them unsigned, you can buy them from Amazon. If you want them signed, you can go to dirtydutchmantell with 2Ls@gmail.com. And there are also diplomas as well for the University of Dutch. He will sign and send to you with that same email. I have 2 books as well, one on Owen, Hart and one on The Rock. Our links are in the description. I don't sign them, but you can get them through Amazon. Fine, well-reviewed books as well. They are as well. The Stevie Richards Show I have every single Friday as well, and on the YouTube channel and podcasts everywhere. Links are in the description. And most importantly, there's an email you need to send your questions to, and that is questionsfordutch@gmail.com. And that is what every single person here has done that I'm going to ask you questions for. And this is going to be a slightly truncated, if you like that word, Dutch, version of the show.
Shorten.
Yes.
I love that word.
There you go.
And the Stevie Richards Show, how's it doing?
Oh, it's doing very well. It's doing very well indeed. Getting a few hundred new subs every day. Creeping up there quickly.
But we have 121,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
Took us a month to get up to another 1,000, but it's still climbing.
Yep. We're still doing well. We're still one of the most subscribed to wrestler-led YouTube channels on the entire platform.
You know why I think people like to listen to this? Because it's good bullshit. I mean, we don't take anything too seriously. We don't call anybody this, that, or get mad. I think that's the way people like to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Because if I have an opinion, I will tell you it's my opinion. I can have it. And you can have an opinion. We can disagree. But the beauty of that is that we can discuss it. So, and that's why I think that politics and wrestling does not go well together.
Once again, questions for Dutch@gmail.com is the email you need to write into to get your question answered by the Dirty Dutchman himself, and this person has done just that. First one is Stephen in Utah. Dear James, please ask Dutch to elucidate, if you like that word, on the very short cage match between Bruiser Brody and Lex Luger. The one that lasted about a minute before... No, it's not true. Didn't last a minute.
Lasted more.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes, actually. Brody no-sold Lex Luger's offense, and Lex looked like he got scared shitless and scrambled over the cage to escape. I know it's been briefly mentioned on the show before, but I would like to know the Dutchman's opinion on the actual state of mind of Brody during this kerfuffle. Was Brody really planning to kick Lex Luger's ass, or was he just not selling for this green kid? And maybe Brody felt Lex hadn't paid his dues yet enough to deserve any kind of respect in the ring. Okay, so we're actually going to watch the last minute ourselves here, so bear with us 1 second. Okay, here we go. I'll unmute, but only slightly. A little Bill Alfonso's in the middle of those two as well. Calling it right down the middle, daddy.
So this was I think, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it was a cage match between Lex Luger and Bruiser Brody.
Well, hang on. Well, look at that. I mean, straight away. So apparently the story is that Bill Fonzie actually told Lex to push him and then call for a DQ just to get him out there. We'll go a minute beforehand just to see what's going on. I love the sound of the old rings. Oh, yeah.
Well, here you're seeing, it's in black and white, and excuse the camera work because this was shot from an old Kodak camera, I imagine. But it's a cage match without the excitement of a cage match.
Did you see that? Lex just stood right back up and then they squared off with each other again.
Because Lex doesn't know what to do, and Brody's not going to do nothing. And so neither guy sold either guy, which made a very boring match. And if you watch this, you can even hear people saying boring, even before it became popular to say boring. So nothing is going on. And this was already about 10 minutes into the match. And see, there's Brody trying to take him down. Lex is blocking him. So they don't know what to do. The referee doesn't know what to do. They're already overtime. And Lex will come out of this, and I think on purpose, pushes a ref, which causes a DQ.
In a cage match as well, a DQ.
In a cage match. And he ends up, I've never seen this, climbs up over the cage and drops to the floor. And Bruiser Brody won a cage match that had a no DQ qualification statement on it by DQ. I've never seen this before.
No. So, at least at this point, I've rewound it down to 3 minutes or so here, and they actually sort of are looking like they're working at this point. I remember hearing a story as a kid, and I think this must have been one of those internet nonsense things, is that Bruiser Brody had razor blades under every single one of his fingernails.
No, that was the Sheik. The Sheik did have that.
Why under every one?
No, in case he missed with the first one, I guess. I don't know.
He's got 4 more attempts.
But Brody didn't need that. Brody was 310 pounds and 6'7" or 6'8". He was, and I like the selling they do in this because something was going on backstage, because you could tell Brody, I mean, he's working Brody style, but he don't sell anything. And Lex don't sell too much. So and I don't blame Lex, when Lex found out that Brody wasn't going to sell nothing, he stopped selling too. So now it's just two guys that don't know what to do. And what you're seeing here is just a shoot. Not a shoot to win, but a shoot just to get through the time and decide what they're going to do. Embarrassing match, it really was.
So we start at 8 minutes. Let's go to 6:30 odd. Let's see if we can really see it sort of devolve here.
All right.
So he's going for the pile driver, getting pushed into the ropes here.
Well, I don't think Lex is going to sell any kind of a move anyway, and I think he just backs out here. Let's see. He just backs out. Now they're looking at each other, stalking and walking around. Referee's moving more than they are.
That's how Fonzie stayed so skinny. Punch, nothing.
What a sale. What a sale. Boom, sell it. Oh, you'll sell this one.
Hey, did you see Luger just looked at Fonzie there?
Yeah. So he said, what is the hell going on with this guy? And the people in the crowd, see, they're not telling a story. Because one of them is pissed off. One of them, or both of them are pissed off. Now he don't know what to do. And he's telling, I know what he's telling Fonzie. He said, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Tell him to work. That's what he's telling Fonzie. And Fonzie said, hey, man, don't look at me. You tell him. You're right next to him, too. Don't try to go through me. I can't tell him to do nothing.
No, so, one last time. Referee down. Disqualification in a cage match.
And I think Fonzie was telling them to do that.
Yeah, I figure so.
Let's get the hell out of here.
So apparently the story is, okay, we've seen enough of that. The story is, and I don't know if I'm misspeaking here, is that actually Bruiser Brody was more annoyed with the Office than with Lex. I don't know if he just didn't want to put Lex over or whatever as well, but it was more an issue with the Office, I think.
Well, supposedly. It could have been. It could have been.
You just left by that point as well. A few months earlier, you left. So this wasn't shortly after your booking tenure.
Well, Wahoo was the booker then. So I think they booked this cage match not knowing that Brody, when he comes in, he said, I'm not going to, nobody's going to pin me. Which is, you think, well, that's you paid to do a job. Why wouldn't you do it? But he says, well, there's no return for me. That you're going to work an angle, and at the end of a cage match, what angle? If he lost that, what is the angle to come back on? Nothing. So I guess he said, well, you must not have got the memo, because I'm not coming down here just to put you guys over. I'm Bruiser Brody, and I need to be. And he did. He was a different character. It's like you bring Abdullah in. You don't bring Abdullah in to beat him. You bring Abdullah in to be Abdullah. So they brought in Brody to be Brody, and being Brody doesn't entail getting pinned, especially by Lex Luger, and he didn't want to do it. So, and Luger could have said, well, let's just call it in a ring. And Brody said, yeah, okay, let's do it. Knowing that if it got out of control, Brody would beat the crap out of him.
I was going to say, I don't think Lex would have been at that point of his career. He might not have even known what Call It in the Ring was in that context.
Well, how long had he been working then?
God, months at that point. He was really, really
green.
Yeah, really rookie year, I think. Yeah,
but he didn't make much progress from that to when I saw him later.
I'm just looking when he actually started. I'd say 84 if I was going to guess. No, 85. He walked into... So he was only in the business a few months at that point.
Well, 85, I had just left in February.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he walked in probably days later after you left and then started his career there.
Well, they were trying to... I guarantee you they were trying to push Lex to get him over to replace some of those strong baby faces that had departed the company. But Brody was the wrong guy to do it in. So they didn't get it done there. And I don't think that helped either one of them. Because the fans in Fort Lauderdale, the Miami fans, and they're pretty vocal. And when they're saying boring, I guess that's where it came from. Started it. But didn't help either one of them.
Mr. McCoy says, I watched your matches recently where you said you would leave town if you lost to Randy Savage again. I love the angle and those were great matches. Could you guys expound on that time frame in Memphis history, particularly those 3 matches? So you had a series with Savage in Memphis, loser leave town.
No, that was me saying loser leave town. It wasn't stipulated like that. That was the deal I made. And I forgot how this ended up. I think, I don't know, I'm going to have to research this, but Savage and I had great matches. Great. Because Savage was like, he just hit like an 8-ball of Coke right before we'd come to the ring.
He was but not actually.
No, not actually, but he was pumped. And when he was pumped, he would go, and you would have to move to stay up with him. So if you didn't have any aggression in you, Savage would bring it out on you because you had to. He would just keep beating your ass up till you decided, well, hell, I'm tired of this. So we. Oh, my dog is barking, but I think the first time he screwed me somehow, and the first time I told him, you're gonna have to get in the ring first. Because I'm not coming in on you. You're not coming in behind me. So he got in the ring and they put the spotlight on me coming down the aisle with the cowboy hat and all this. Except that wasn't me coming down the aisle. That was another guy that had my poncho on and a beard and my hat. So he came down and Savage was waiting for him. That's when I come from the backside and beat the shit out of him and pinned him, and then I left. So then I said, if you beat me the next time, I'll leave town. So he beat me. So I left town. I was gone about a week.
Todd P., Columbus, Ohio. Hello, James and Dutch. I just completed a road trip that Dutch may have done with some frequency back in the territory days. I drove from Columbus, Ohio to Nashville, Tennessee, and even stopped at the White Castle at Elizabethtown, Kentucky, in Dutch's honor. Any stories from Elizabethtown or Bowling Green, Kentucky? How about that? Either of those towns bring up some or dredge up some memories for you? Apart from Kenny Bolin, who I believe lives in Bowling Green.
Yeah. No, he lives in Louisville.
Oh, I thought he lived in Bowling Green. Or was that where something else was based? I'm confused.
Oh, he'd be insulted if you said he lived in Bowling Green.
Kenny, you live in Bowling Green.
Yeah, he'd be highly insulted. No, one of the matches from Bowling Green, we used to work there in some kind of, I don't know what the hell it was. It was some kind of little meeting hall or something, but we had a trailer outside to get dressed in, and it was, I swear to God, it was unfit for beast or human. It was horrible. It was the nastiest place they wanted us to dress. And I remember one night I'm in a bad mood too, and I go out on the floor, and I'm wrestling the worst wrestler ever in the world, George Goulas. It was me and I forgot who my partner was. Oh, me and a Mexican guy wrestling, Tojo and George Goulas. And we didn't have that much heat on us. I didn't think I did. But I'm going around, and it was like a street fight, and we was out in the crowd and all. And all of a sudden, this guy got up, and he swung like a cross fist like this, but this part of the arm caught me right across the nose. He knocked me silly. He didn't knock me down, but and my nose started bleeding. And I backed up and I looked at him and I said, well, you son of a bitch. And I went after him and took him down. And right when I took him down, Pepe Lopez was my partner. Pepe joined me. The two baby faces, they just stayed out of the way. We beat the living shit out of him. I bet the beating went on for a minute. No cops, no nothing. And we left him laying there. And finally, the cops took him out and didn't arrest him or nothing. But that showed the rest of the crowd, hey, don't hit these guys because you're going to get the dog crap beat out of you. So I went back. My nose is like Chernobyl going, whoa, whoa. And he was a big guy. He was about 6'2", probably about 230. If he'd hit me with a fist, he may have knocked me out. But he just hit me with that sidearm, that clothesline. And when he went down, we stomped the hell out of him. I remember I had him down, and I took my fingers. I was behind him. He's on his ass. And I reached under his nose and pulled up. Anybody ever done that to you?
Yes.
It hurts like hell. And he wanted to get up, but I wouldn't let him. Because between the kicks and the nose pulling and the punches from me, he didn't want to have any more. So they took him out. They didn't arrest him. So I go back there the next week, and somebody said, you need to watch that guy. He might be back. I said, I don't give a shit. If he's back, I'll whip his ass again. Not knowing I could, because he may have just come up and hit me in the head, but he wasn't out. I think we lost the fan that night. So
you never saw him again?
I never saw him again. But the cops never arrested him. And the cop that showed up, they told him what happened, but he never arrested him. Of course, I never took any charges out against him either. So that may have been the reason. But hey, I wanted to settle it there. I wanted to be done with it. So I went on. But I never saw him again, and nobody else ever bothered me in Bowling Green again.
Was Bowling Green the worst town in Kentucky for rowdy fans, or was there worse?
It was just the worst town. One thing is getting attacked by people when you're sold out. Another thing is getting attacked by somebody when there's nobody there. Hell, it looked like I bet there was 100, maybe 125 people there. And I was thinking to myself, that's a lot of damn punishment for 125 people. And I went back and told the office, I said, I'm not going back there. And guess who was back there the next week? Me. I went back looking for the guy. But even if he had been standing there right in front of me when I walked out, I'm blind as a bat. I wouldn't have known it was him. I couldn't even tell you what he looked like, except he just had dark hair and a big old nose. A big old nose hanging down. Now, that's not funny, James. You laugh at the wrong things, you evil bastard.
Next question. Duncan says, hey guys, I really enjoy your show. Been watching for a good while now. It's always fun. Question for Dutch. When you were on the road, how were you generally treated by law enforcement? It sort of like goes to that story you just told. I mean, you kind of left alone in that thing, I guess. I know some wrestlers earn the ire of local law enforcement with their shenanigans. How about you? Take care, guys.
No, never make the cops mad. Never. I don't know why anybody would want to make any kind of an authority figure, a police officer, pissed at them, because you may need them later on. One time in Louisville, it was me and David Schultz and Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler was managing us. We was against two Indian guys, Feather something and Chief Thundercloud. And Chief Thundercloud had a young son, about 16, good looking boy. And the girls in the crowd, they just loved him. I tell the story.
I just recognized it then. You beat up the kid.
Oh yeah. And finally the kid jumped in and the people just got quiet. And we was all looking at each other like, should we or shouldn't we beat this kid up? Brother, when we laid our hands on him, here they come. Women too. They were all trying to get in the ring, and I'm kicking, people grabbing ropes with their hands. I'm kicking their hands to keep them from getting a good grip on it. And it took us 10 minutes. I'll say a good 5 minutes. I'll back that up. It took us a good 5 minutes to get that 150 or 200 feet back to the door to get into the dressing room, because people were punching and kicking and trying to grab us and all. And I remember one guy reached through and I threw a punch, and he had glasses on. I busted the glasses, knocked him on his ass. And he sent word the next week that I was going to have to pay for his glasses. I said, you tell him to kiss my butt. I ain't paying for shit. So, and I never heard any more from him, but I didn't pay for his glasses. But we got in the back, and all the Indians, they were just excited, happy. Wow, what a match. The people responded. And we walk in, beat all the shit from the people, and they were just damn celebrating in there. I said, well, we may have reached the end of this angle, because I don't think we can take this heat anymore. But his name was Chewy, the little second. He was Thundercloud's son, and a very nice looking young man. I can see why the girls liked him.
So where did the police end up in this then?
Well, the police, they didn't arrest anybody. But I tell you what they did do in Evansville. They liked the wrestlers, and when somebody would do something to a wrestler back in those days, the cops would grab them and take them to the back. And so one guy hit me one night, and they pulled him to the back in a little room and called me in there. And they told me, they said, we're going to turn our back now. Do what you want. I said, brother, no, I ain't doing that. I said, and I told the guy, I said, man, don't do that crap. Don't do that. But they have pulled some of them back in that little, like, I think it was a storage area in Evansville, and the wrestlers just beat the crap out of them. And I never much liked that, because, what's the guy going to do anyway? You're doing the same thing to him that he wanted to do to you. So best thing to do is don't lay your hands on anybody, and unless you're hurt. And I didn't get hurt, just maybe my pride. But I told the guy, I said, man, don't do that crap. You're going to get in more trouble than you can get out of. So you going to leave me alone? He said, yes, sir. I said, okay. It was over, and I walked out. You see how diplomatic I am. See, I had the guy, I could have punched him and hit him. And if he'd have got up and started kicking my ass, well, the cops would have grabbed him and held him, and I'd have beat him up. But I didn't do that.
Sounds like a good deal. With the police, what percentage of them were smartened up?
Well, they didn't tell you nothing, but most of them.
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't know if I've just heard this story or I'm just making this up, but I mean, has a policeman ever run into the ring to save a babyface from something or anything like that? Have you heard of?
Not that I know of, no.
Right, we'll move on then. Glenn has written in and says, hi, Dutch, I was wondering how you guys secured your money when travelling on the road. When driving with hundreds of thousands of dollars from town to town, did you, I doubt you were driving around with hundreds of thousands, but hundreds if not thousands, did you ever have trouble with other wrestlers who were not trustworthy being around having lots of cash at hand?
Oh, I've been around some sticky fingers now. But what I would do, when I'd go to the ring, you know where my money went? It went with me, but in my boot. I'd put it down inside my sock, then lace up my boot, so my money was securely controlled or concealed. And if anybody went through my belongings back there or my wallet or anything, there was no money in it. But yeah, there were some sticky fingers. There could be some sticky fingers in the locker room. So you'd have to watch who you dressed around, because it's human nature. It's not just the wrestlers doing that. It's human nature. If you see some money, you might be having a tough time. You'll take it and intend to pay. You could even intend to pay it back, but intending to pay it back would be admitting you stole it in the first place. So there's no winner there. So yeah, I just put my money down in my sock. And I didn't have thousands of dollars. I maybe had tens of dollars and a credit card that went with me too. So, and that's how I control my money.
Is this the right time to name and shame some locker room thieves over the years? Or did you ever actually have any names or just suspect of certain people?
No, I didn't have. You knew the ones to watch. You know, I mean, I never caught anybody in the process of stealing anything. I can't come up with a name right now.
Did you ever have money stolen from you? And that's when you ended up carrying it around with you?
Never had any money stolen.
I'm going to go slightly off piste here, if you like that. Bagmen in wrestling, who were the trustworthy guys who would handle the money from, shows, house shows, and take it with them around? Because I know Gorilla Monsoon, I believe, used to do that for the WWF. I don't know if I'm making this up, but Grizzly Smith might have been a bagman at one time.
Oh, he was. He was the office representative at the shows. So when Grizzly would show up, he would make sure that and anybody who did this, you would make sure the box office was set up and the building was set up. You had a few things you'd have to cover, and you would do a check on their money, on your advance. Most of your advance would maybe be there if you had ticket sales somewhere in the city or in the town or in the area. And then you go to the dressing room and you would hand out the finishes, and then you'd watch the finishes. And at the end, or close to the end, the agent would be in the ticket box, the ticket office, and they would be settling up. And he settles up the state taxes, the city taxes, if the building had been paid for, the insurance. He takes care of all that. And then he brings the office part back with him in a bag, because he's carrying a gun. Now, later on, they just took that money. Most of it's done with credit card anyway, and they just send that directly to the bank from the box office. He does. I don't know how they do it now, but yeah, you'd have to be and the bag man would have to leave with somebody with him. Now, it was Jerry Jarrett's mother used to do it in Evansville and Louisville. And I don't know how many people knew that she was bringing money out with her, but I think she was always accompanied to her car by the policeman or two police guys, and they would get in the car and they would leave. Miss Christine, that was Jerry Jarrett's mother, she would have a driver, a young woman, that was her niece or something, and she would drive, and Miss Jarrett would sit over there with the money. So that's how they got it out of there.
Do you know of any other bagmen in the territories over the years that you can think of?
Well, here's a story that don't have nothing about bagman. Austin Idol. He was in Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Is this the Battle Royal? Jack?
Oh, yeah, Battle Royal. He told me this story. Yeah. He said he won the Battle Royal, and then when he got the check, it was written out to him.
The winner of the Battle Royal, it was written out.
The winner of the Battle Royal got the check, and he got the check in the ring, and they signed it, I think. Right then, he could have it, and he disappeared. They're supposed to get the check back from him, but they didn't. Early the next morning, Idol spent the night in Columbus, Georgia. He spent the night in Columbus and got up early as soon as the bank opened, went in, cashed the check. That was his last night in Georgia. And they wanted to charge him with, stealing the money, but they couldn't, because that would mean that he didn't really get the money and wrestling was fake. But that was Austin Idol.
Was this Fred Ward? Was that the promoter's name?
Fred Ward was the son-in-law of, I can't remember the promoter's name, in Columbus. Ed Ward, and he had two son-in-laws. He was one of the son-in-laws, had another Leon somebody, and then Fred Ward. I think that was his name.
So it was Fred Ward then?
I think it was Fred Ward, and I think, yes. Yeah. I don't know. It's been so many years.
Let's call it Fred Ward. Right. Two more questions, then we're going to wrap this one up. It's a bit of a shortened one, this one. So Dorothy writes in, "Hi, guys. Long-time wrestling fan from 1980 plus. I used to live in Georgia and met a few wrestlers as a young girl. One of my favourites was Buzz Sawyer. Do you have any stories about Buzz, and why was he never NWA champion? Thanks, guys."
Yes, I know Buzz. I know Buzz pretty well. And you know who knows Buzz pretty well, too, and wants to kill him?
Undertaker.
Quite
a few people, I guess. Well, I mean, he's dead now, but yeah.
Well, and Buzz he was a sneaky little bastard. I like Buzz. And have I told this story, him and Tommy Rich in the match throwing up? I've told that story, right?
Have you? I thought you had told the Undertaker one, but we've told that one, but the throwing up one.
Oh yeah, the throwing up one. You hadn't heard that story?
Maybe, but tell it again.
Okay, they had this match, and Buzz was about drunk. Tommy was drunk. So they went out there, and they work about 10 minutes. Then all of a sudden, Buzz Sawyer goes out there and leans on the outside, the pole in the corner, but out on the outside the ring, and he just throws up. People going, "Oh, God." And then he goes after Tommy again, and Tommy gets the best of him, and now he's spending all this energy. And then Tommy gets the best of him, and then he leans on the other pole in the other corner, and he throws up. Oh, my God, they were both sick, and I don't know how they got back in the ring and finished it, but they did. I think that was in Chattanooga, I think. Or it could have been in a town in Georgia. I don't know. But Buzz is he's a crazy guy. And I think what happened to Buzz, I think Buzz got involved with some people that weren't on the up and up, some criminals maybe. And I think that's why he would, some of the companies he went to, he had to get out of town fast. So he'd be there and then he'd be gone. No notice, no nothing. And Buzz would just take off.
Dorothy asked specifically, why was he never NWA champion? I think that's fairly obvious.
Because he wasn't reliable. He was really basically kind of not an idiot, but a nut. He's irresponsible and undependable. So they're not going to put a title on him in case, say, a month from now, he comes up with a big match and all of a sudden he's not there. See, your character means something in wrestling because it's like you're working a job. If they're going to trust you with money, they got to believe that you're not going to steal the money and run off. Because they're not going to give somebody a job like that because he'd be gone with their money. Like Austin Idol.
Yeah.
But
Buzz never won any battle royals either, probably for that reason.
But Buzz was undependable, and he was and he had a bad temper. And so there's a lot of things that didn't go right in Buzz's path, and the promoters didn't trust him.
Last question, we're going to give it to Mr. A. Recently, I've noticed, especially Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, now uses words like basically a load of swear words he's listed, and sucks, which I wouldn't have included in swear words, because it's not a swear word. And they acknowledged that what the crowds are chanting, which never used to happen. I love these changes because for me, a grown person who still uses some words like this when someone's really annoyed, I think the F word should still be banned in commentary even when they are moved over to Netflix. What are your thoughts? So we've talked about this a bit, but commentators seem to be swearing more. Are you all for that? Does it make it seem more reality-based? Or should the commentator always be the straight man in this situation?
The commentator should be the straight man. I don't think commentators should actually use those words, but the color man can. That's what he's there for. So, and I think they're getting ready for their move to Netflix because they're going to have another Attitude Era and use those words. Of course, everybody uses them in real life anyway. Well, not everybody, but most people do. and you're kind of not used to hearing it. But to hear that on a show like that, I think if you heard that on, say, Fox, it would shock you. Netflix, I don't think it will, because they can say anything on Netflix that they want to. But I'm only in favor of saying words like that if it fits the character of the color commentator. What was the one you was telling me about that he just come back, the football guy?
Oh, Pat McAfee. He's just left again. He's just got, that was his last Raw. He's going again until January.
And I don't even like to hear him do it, because I think a well-placed cuss word, if you put it in the right place, means more than a whole line of them. I mean, remember when JR would say, he's a no good son of a, like he didn't want to say it, and he'd say it, bitch, which was rare for Jim Ross to say it. But when he said it, you say, well, damn, he must be really pissed off to start talking like that. But they're trying to start the new Attitude Era. I think they need to leave it to the guys and not your commentators to do that, because I think, when they can start talking like that in the ring, I think that may add a little more to them. But then you got to think about, when is enough? And can you do it too much? I think that's what they're going to run into. But I'm not against that, but I am against the overuse of it.
Netflix has just rearranged their homepage as well. It's really ugly now. I'm really unhappy with it.
Bastards.
Yeah. And do you know what they keep doing? They just keep shoving Love is Blind at me night and day, trying to get me to watch it. I'm never going to watch Love is Blind.
What is that?
It's
a show?
Some stupid dating show where they don't get to see each other. So I'm reliably told.
I wouldn't watch that show.
No. Well, you don't have to. Well, you'd sort of do if you were on Netflix. You've got to go through 18 pages worth of menus to get away from it. Anyway, based on that, I'm sorry to say this was a bit of a shortened show, because the full show was longer, so we sort of had to make up time in that case. But we will see you again on Friday for Storytime with Dutch Mantell. Once again, if you want your questions answered on Ask Dutch Anything, you write into questionsfordutch@gmail.com. But all is left to say, we will see you on Friday. Dutch, we the people.
We the people. See you next week.